Has the drinking in your life reached the point where it feels like it is running away from you, causing damage to your health, energy, work, money, or even the people closest to you? Maybe you've started to notice the way alcohol steals time, weakens your focus, eats away at your motivation, and creates problems that you never thought would come from something as common as a glass of beer or wine. If you've arrived at that stage where you feel enough is enough, where you're ready to step back and finally take charge, then what you're about to hear can reshape the way you see drinking forever. The reality is that stopping does not have to be a miserable battle. It can become lighter, more empowering, and even exciting once you begin to see the truth hidden behind alcohol's disguise. I want to share 3 key ideas that can make stepping away from drinking not just possible, but surprisingly straightforward. Now, I'll be honest with you. When you hear them, some may sound unusual, even controversial, because most people have never thought about alcohol from these perspectives before. That's why I call them secrets. They're not secrets because they're hidden, but because the average person has never considered them deeply. When you begin to understand them, you realize that alcohol was never your friend, never your comfort, never the thing you thought it was. It was always a cleverly marketed poison that tricks the mind into believing it provides benefits, when in reality, it only causes harm. Before we go deeper, let me clarify who this message is meant for. If you've accepted the label of being an alcoholic, if you're attending 12-step meetings and feel that system is the only framework that helps you, then what I'm about to explain may not resonate with you. If you've given up hope, if you're convinced there's no other way, or if you refuse to consider a different perspective, then you probably won't take much from what follows. But if you're someone who is ambitious, someone who doesn't want to carry around negative labels, someone who believes there is still more potential inside you waiting to be unlocked, then this can be a turning point. If you're ready to challenge what you thought you knew about alcohol, to see things in a fresh light, you'll discover a lot of value here. Let's start with the first major truth. You are not an alcoholic. That label has been used for decades, but the problem with it is that it sticks to a person's identity. Imagine for a moment how other addictive behaviors are treated. When someone stops smoking, no one insists they wear a badge for the rest of their life, calling themselves a nicotine-holic. When a person moves past a gambling habit, society doesn't say they must forever claim the title of gambler even if they never touch a betting slip again. But with alcohol, if someone has struggled, they are encouraged to hold on to that name for eternity. That does not serve anyone. It ties people to an identity of weakness, rather than allowing them to step into a new chapter. I spent years experimenting with the idea of being an alcoholic, attending meetings, trying to surrender to a higher power, repeating the phrases, and convincing myself that I was the problem. But that approach never helped me. What I eventually realized is that the real problem wasn't me. It was alcohol itself and the way society glorifies it. It's a toxic chemical, ethanol, dressed up as a social lubricant. The marketing, the culture, the conditioning make it appear normal. And when someone can't control it, the blame gets shifted to the person instead of the drug. That's the trap. Think about it. If you tell yourself you're an alcoholic, and one day you slip after months of not drinking, your brain immediately says, "Of course, I'm an alcoholic. This is what I do." That thought becomes a justification to keep spiraling downward. The label becomes permission to keep failing. But when you erase that word, when you strip it away and look at drinking for what it really is, a dangerous, addictive substance, you stop pointing the finger at yourself and you begin pointing it at the actual culprit. You're not broken. You're not doomed. You don't need to live with that weight for the rest of your life. What you need is to change the way you see alcohol. This shift is powerful because once you throw away the label, you no longer see yourself as fundamentally flawed. You see alcohol as the poison. And when that shift happens, you're able to move forward, rebuild health, repair relationships, focus on your goals, and stop wasting years carrying a negative identity that never belonged to you in the first place. Now let's move into the second important idea. Stopping drinking has nothing to do with willpower. I know this sounds outrageous because everything in life teaches us that strength and discipline are necessary to overcome obstacles. Many of you watching have already demonstrated incredible willpower in your careers, in raising families, in achieving academic goals, in building businesses. You know how to push through challenges. But here's the problem. Alcohol is not just a bad habit, it's a drug. When the mind is still tricked into believing that alcohol provides some benefit, no matter how strong you are, there will come a day when your guard is down, your energy is low, or the circumstances line up just right, and suddenly that illusion will pull you back in. I know this because I once managed nearly a year without drinking purely by force of will. During that period, I was thriving on the surface. I was building a career, had a relationship, a car, a comfortable home, and from the outside it looked like I'd conquered the problem. But deep down, because I hadn't changed the way I viewed alcohol, it was always there in the background whispering. And eventually, when my willpower ran thin, I caved. This is why countless people fall back into the cycle after months or even years. The approach of relying only on strength works temporarily, but it rarely lasts. The breakthrough is not about becoming stronger, it's about seeing alcohol differently. When you no longer believe it has any value, when you realize it cannot give you relaxation, cannot give you courage, cannot give you fun, when you see it only as a toxin that steals more than it gives, you don't need willpower anymore. You simply lose the desire. That's the turning point. The battle ends when the illusion is broken. The third idea that transforms everything is understanding that so-called normal drinkers are not people to admire or envy. This was a huge revelation for me, because during the many years I drank, I always looked at those individuals who seemed able to have just 1 or 2 glasses and then carry on with their evening as though nothing had happened. I saw them as stronger, luckier, somehow more disciplined than I was. Deep down, I wished I could be like them, the kind of person who appeared to maintain their health, their relationships, their career, while still enjoying a drink casually. But here's the truth. There is nothing enviable about someone consuming ethanol, no matter how small the amount. When you strip away the illusion, alcohol cannot give anything positive to anybody. It doesn't matter whether someone drinks daily, occasionally, or only on rare nights out. It remains the same toxic substance that chips away at health, drains confidence, damages the body, clouds the mind, and shortens life. That person you once wished you could be like is not really winning anything. They are simply engaging in a behavior that provides zero benefit, even if the damage hasn't yet shown itself on the surface. Imagine if someone took a small amount of heroin and managed to keep their life together. Would you say to yourself, I want to be like that? Of course not. But because alcohol is marketed differently, because it has been normalized by culture, parties, celebrations, and even family traditions, the illusion persists that the occasional drinker has figured out the secret balance. The reality is that they've been tricked, just like everyone else, into believing a poison has a place in their life. Once you start viewing it that way, the desire to be that person fades. Instead of admiration, you begin to see pity, because no matter how well they think they are handling it, the truth is they are harming themselves unnecessarily. This is why the biggest shift when quitting drinking is not about grit, not about battling cravings forever, but about destroying the illusion completely. Once you see alcohol as the empty, harmful chemical that it is, you don't look at others with jealousy anymore. You don't long for what they have, because you know they actually have nothing. Their drink isn't making their life better. It's subtracting, little by little. And once your vision clears, you realize you're the one who has the real freedom. So here's the choice everyone eventually faces. On one path, you can try to stop on your own, patching things together, with effort and sheer determination, hoping you'll resist long enough to break free. That approach can work, but it usually comes at a cost. Time wasted in relapse, money thrown away, moments lost to mistakes, endless cycles of frustration. Or on the other path, you can choose to build a new way of seeing alcohol, a new mental framework where the drug loses all appeal, where you don't have to rely on willpower because the desire itself vanishes. That second route is quicker, smoother, and far more enjoyable because it is rooted in clarity rather than resistance. When I talk about clarity, I mean reaching a place where you no longer view drinking as a friend, a comfort, or a reward. You see it only as ethanol, the same liquid you find in that light. Drinking becomes absurd, not tempting. And from there, the future opens up. Because sobriety isn't just about taking alcohol away. It's about what fills the space afterward. Think about the opportunities. Waiting once your mind and body are no longer dragged down by drinking. Energy comes back, sleep improves, your focus sharpens, and your confidence rebuilds piece by piece. Relationships begin to heal, your productivity rises, and new possibilities feel reachable again. You're not just stopping something destructive, you're creating space to build something far greater. Fitness goals, career growth, spiritual connection, creativity, financial security, new passions. All of it becomes easier when you're no longer carrying the constant burden of alcohol. I like to think of the process as two stages. The first stage is breaking the illusion, seeing alcohol for what it is, so the craving disappears. That's the foundation. Once you stop believing the lie that drinking brings pleasure, the struggle ends. Then comes the second stage, which is about building a vision for your future. This is where you direct your energy toward health, ambition, relationships, and a new identity. It's not about living as a person who has given up something, but about becoming someone who has gained freedom, clarity, and strength. And the truth is, this transformation can happen faster than most people imagine. Because once the mental shift occurs, you don't spend years battling temptation. You simply stop wanting it. That's when the real growth begins, because your mind isn't stuck in the loop of should I or shouldn't I anymore. It's fully focused on what matters, living a better life. So, if you've been wrestling with drinking, thinking you have to fight it forever, or envying others who seem to control it, remember this. You don't need to wear a label. For life, you don't need endless willpower, and you don't need to admire anyone who still drinks. Alcohol offers nothing. Once you see it clearly, the chains break, and you step into a new chapter where freedom, health, and possibility become your reality. Every moment without alcohol is not a loss. It's a win. It's not a day survived. It's a day claimed back. And as those days stack together, you don't just quit drinking. You build a life that feels richer, stronger, and far more fulfilling than anything a drink could ever give. That is the real secret to making stopping not only possible, but surprisingly easy.